Tuesday, and welcome to the MSL Lead Chronicles. It's a podcast on a mission in medical affairs and leadership. I'm Mary Morton, and along with my buddy, Chad Fellers, we're going to have casual talk about important topics and challenges in leadership. And we are so glad you're here. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to another episode of MSL Lead Chronicles. I am your host, Chad Fellers, along with my amazing, tremendous, hardworking, elegant, well-spoken, sometimes dramatic, very talkative, Mary Morton. How are you today,
Hello.
Mary?
I'm terrific, as always.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm off for the remainder of the year, at least from a work standpoint. So trying to get into the holiday spirit as much as possible and just really enjoy family and friends. How about you?
I have a few more days of work before I am off for the rest of the year, but I this is my favorite time of year, so nothing can get me down. I'm good.
Ooh, okay. I love that. Well, I'm excited about our conversation today. Just really thinking about what a year that we have had.
No kidding.
I think just even I'll never forget the day that we actually brainstormed on this. We'll talk about that here in a second. So we wanted to take time for really to thank our listeners and really focus on that for this week's episode. And we want to recap what we've done in 24 and then even give you a sneak peek in what you can expect in 25 from our podcast. So let's get going with that. So first of all, I think it's important to just think about where we've been. So I think it was the end of December. I was on a walk and we were talking. And you were enduring one of my brainstorming ideas as well too. That always fly things out, and I just mentioned the podcast idea. And the next thing I know, that afternoon, I had a link to an Amazon microphone to order, and I think we got going literally the next week. So,
well, it coupled really well with my New Year's resolution for 2024 to stop just being a generator of ideas and act on something. And so I think, I don't know, maybe you caught me at the right time. The idea hit me right as I was like, enough of this being an idea factory, let's do something. And so, I think we did get on it the next week.
I think you probably just got tired of me talking about different things over 5 or 6 years and called my bluff. You called my bluff on it, and it's
maybe
been fun.
So.
It's been fun. It's amazing just taking a look back and listening how far we've been able to come with this, and have some amazing listeners feedback as well as some great guests. And so why don't we just take a few minutes and just take a quick run through all the different topics that we discussed and for the year, and even highlight some of the guests that were with us. So with that, why don't you get us kicked off, Mary?
Okay. Well, I feel like the first one was really more of like an intro.
Yep.
Like, all right, you guys, this is what it's going to be like. We hope, fingers crossed. And just kind of laid everything out for what everybody can hopefully expect. And, I think reflecting, we stayed pretty true to that. Our mission was to provide value to field medical leadership, all medical affairs leadership, to be honest. And I think that we have stayed true and really only just kind of scratched the surface, and as we kind of go through some of these topics, I think that everybody will hear, we have, I think we just started, peeling back the onion, the layers of the onion. One of the other things I think that, which was your idea, which I thought was great, is that, let's start these folks out with the takeaways, 2, 3, 5, 100, whatever they are, but at least so that they know during the next 30 to 45 minutes, these are sort of the things you can keep an eye out for. Wow. And I think we plan to continue with that next year, right?
I think so. That would be
I like
my
the
plan.
predictability.
That's my plan. Yeah. I mean, tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you said, right? I mean, it's just following that order as well. I'm a pretty simple guy, and so I'm glad that that's been something that's seems to resonate with some of our with many of our listeners, actually. So from the feedback, so yeah, we talked about that. We talked, I guess, the next episode we talked about really which was almost the premise of one of the reasons why we put this podcast together, right? Just talking about the idea of transitioning from an individual contributor to leader, and how those are different types of skill sets, things that are really not fully well defined for those within medical affairs. And so how do we be able to close that gap? So we talked about the three takeaways to consider about our success as an individual doesn't guarantee success in a leadership role. The number one customer shifts from a external to the team becoming the number one customer, and then asking two questions: what do you need from me, and what can I do to make your job better? Right. So that was really that first, I think, foundational episode for us here at MSL Lead. I think the next one, I think, was something that with a guest that's a dear friend of both of ours, right? Around psychological safety. And that was with Deanna Tucker. Do you remember what she discussed?
Yeah. And I just want to say, having Deanna be our inaugural guest was amazing. Loved it. So, she talked about how, that you should establish an environment that is learning in nature, and setting the expectations from the jump that I expect you to speak up. That's the environment we're in. It's a speak up culture. And also the third being like, it's a culture of curiosity. Ask questions, be prepared to be asked questions, share. And, it really helps to cultivate that environment. In fact, that conversation was so in-depth and lengthy. 2 episodes out of that. 2 episodes, yeah. So
we probably could actually talk about that for at least half a year, quite honestly, if we really wanted to dig into it. The importance that, yeah, she really set the bar high for our guests, and it was just great conversation. And yes, it's funny when you get 3 of us together, that can be a little long-winded at times, or like to be very detailed in our descriptions. It can go a couple of hours, but it was definitely worth it between those 2 episodes that we had. So can't wait to have her back.
And you know what? I am so surprised I have not heard from her. She must be very busy here towards the end of the year, because she went to pharmacy school at OU. And I thought for sure I would have heard from her by now. Since
Liam.
Yeah. So
you remember your names of your kid?
Yeah, Liam. Look, that's that cute little face right behind me.
He's not that little boy anymore. I know he'll always be your little boy, though. Always be your little boy. So back to that. So the next episode, we talked about building a collaborative team. But with that, we talked about a few different things. We talked about as leaders of remote teams, we need to understand the challenges that impact teamwork and collaboration, creating or fostering that environment, and recognizing communication barriers, the lack of visibility, the potential for isolation and engagement, and even the cultural differences, all these different things that can play factors into successfully leading a remote team. And then how do you set your team up for success? So really good conversation with that. And then you introduced me on the next episode to Carol. Why don't you talk about that one?
So love Carol Heggie, love her. And she has a lot of really great ideas around hiring right from the hiring manager's perspective. And so we had her kind of come on and talk about how to create a process to hire the right person so you don't end up having to fire people. And so she had 3 takeaways, which I think are pretty simple, but I think we just overlook them sometimes, you need to know what you are looking for before you start the process. And then you need to establish a really logical hiring process. Don't try to wing it. And then at the very end, trust your gut. Your gut's never wrong. If your gut, it's your spidey senses, your, red flag, pink flag. Yeah, I think, as a people leader, speaking for myself, anytime I've questioned my hire, it's been wrong. So trust in your gut. Yeah, no, it was a great conversation. In fact, I was just thinking about her on Monday, and I need to catch up with her and see how she's doing.
Yeah, yeah. Really, I was so thankful you introduced me to her. She's fantastic, and just she's a trailblazer in many ways
I
too,
think
right?
so.
With medical excellence, and just has a great perspective on the role of medical affairs within industry. And so it was fun having Carol on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we shifted to another two podcasts conversation, I think, around metrics, right? I think you
Mm-hmm.
and this is one that I'm pretty passionate about, and apparently long in the tooth, because it did last a couple. We talked about metric fixation, how it causes a number of unintended consequences, which may run counter to the actual goals of what we're trying to measure. We talked about things about transparency within that, what gets measured, who sees that measurement, what it's utilized for, quality over quantity, and then even transition to the next podcast into, well, if we're thinking about the things that matter, we shifted and started really talking about insights and the whole quantitative versus qualitative. And then what do you report? What do you lead with? And then how do you really shift that narrative? And that actually became a theme, really with a couple of different other conversations that we had later on during the year as well too, talking about, I know with Carl, we had some conversation around insights as well too. So, that,
We got so much feedback on those episodes, and
yeah,
that is really what kind of engineered the shift of going more and more into that discussion. The number of people that I talked to that said, "Thank you so much for covering that," and saying, "Would you believe that my company still focuses just on the numbers and doesn't they don't really care about what's happening?" I and one person in particular I talked to said that there needs to, if we're going to look at metrics, we need to be looking at numbers of how many interactions without an actionable insight, looking at that, once they're very well defined insights and what's actionable. And, I could totally go down a rabbit hole, but those topics were so popular. And I think they're going to probably continue to be, but I love
I think
hearing
so.
everybody's feedback and perspectives. It's great.
It really is a topic I think that we will continue to have conversations around. And I want to definitely get some people on that really focus on the qualitative KPIs and what they've been able to do and how they've been able to shift the narrative for their companies. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite episodes was the next episode, and that was with Dr. Wynn, the impact through the eyes of a KOL. It was so cool being able to actually, instead of talking about this in concept or from hearing it from one angle, to be able to actually hear it from a provider themselves about what they look for or what really sets an MSL apart from the others. I remember the key takeaways: personal connection is important. Being able to tell a story is important, and then being authentic and how you communicate to establish that relationship. And I think it was really good for us to hear, right? Because when you think about as many people within the role of medical affairs, it's black and white, it's data driven, and we don't provide value unless we have new data to talk about or things like that, right? So it was so good to hear the idea that these KOLs are not some type of godlike syndrome. I don't know why we put them up on a pedestal. They're people as well too, and the importance of of being authentic and connecting still means a lot to whoever it is that we engage as well too. So Patrick Wynn is great.
Yeah, I love that episode as well because, well, for all of the things you just said, but it's also music. I mean, guy was in his studio. I could see all of the speakers and the equipment that was mounted to the ceiling, and I had incredible restraint. You have to admit that I did not go too far down any sort of music rabbit holes. Are you proud of me?
For once this year, I'm very proud of you, Mary. Yes. No. Yeah, you did behave yourself really well. Thank you for doing that. No, it was a good conversation. He's a great musician as well too, and just a really gifted person, businessman. So many different roles and different things that he does. Definitely worth a listen if you haven't had a chance to hear that particular a podcast. Then
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off. I got a ton of feedback on that episode, especially from, not MSL directors, but new MSLs.
Yeah.
That they felt like getting to see this sort of interaction with Dr. Wynn, to your point, exactly, humanized the KOL and made him seem less unapproachable and less of an enigma, I guess, and made it where they felt more comfortable about their next interaction, and less nervous. So, I think we should have a thought leader on next year too.
I think that may be already on the books. So that just as a sneak peek as to what's to come. Yeah, I think one other thing about that, and it's not, or just to kind of reemphasize the importance of relationships. I had not talked with him in 7 years.
That's
7
crazy.
years, and when I sent a text to him to see if he'd be interested, he was like, "Hey, I didn't know if I would ever hear back from you after you left your last role. It's so good to hear from you. This, that, and the other." The importance of relationships cannot be overstated, and the impact that you make can go a lot further than you would ever imagine. So we next talked about what the medical affairs tributes, or a tribute to the working medical affairs moms. And that was something that was driven solo by you, which I thought you did a good job. You want to remind us the conversation?
Yeah. And I actually just talked to Alicia yesterday. Such an inspirational person. And this was with Alicia O'Connor. And she's an MSL director for Adaptimmune. Did the whole startup thing and built this team, and all while being a single mom and managing the lives of 3 kids. And so when I talked to her yesterday, she was telling me that her son had just come home from college, and giving me a little bit of a flash forward as a working mom about how many hugs your son needs when he comes home for Christmas break. And it's a lot. I'll prepare Liam for what that's going to be like a year from now. But
how many your son needs, or how many you need from your son?
Same thing, right?
It's okay. It's okay to be selfish for that. You've earned it. Moms, you've earned it. Hug your kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think Alicia was great at kind of going through what the challenges are that working moms face, but also, how you can take some of those challenges and, make something amazing out of them.
Yeah.
And, she had some opportunities where she was able to expose one of her daughters to a skill building, future professional, career building experience with other women. So that was a really good one. She's great. If anybody out there does not already know or have a relationship with Alicia, she is an amazing woman and a wonderful friend. So Yeah. Speaking of amazing women, our next
Yeah,
one, we had
Lee.
Lee Holcomb on talking about the necessity of having a career coach. So enlighten us.
Yeah, so Lee really said it well. So just having that someone that can offer that type of direction in a professional way, I think really is proven to be valuable. I know that there are several that have, as a response, have really started to engage different types of career coaches as well too to offer that type of support. So Lee's conversation certainly was impactful, and maybe we can even continue that conversation because it is important, right? Having that direction and having someone in your corner that can help steer interesting conversations that you may have as a leader, et cetera. I think it's just is a necessity. So that was a great conversation. Ryan's, we had a mid-year recap as well too, right?
Yes.
I think you
And
called it the Dirty Dozen, and so that was a quick little update show. The next was
is a
um,
papa moment for you.
yes. What you can go ahead, kick it off. What was it? What was the title of it?
It was Life After MSL, and that was with
Audrey Wells.
Audrey Wells, who
Yeah.
I had the great fortune of placing with you at the company you met her at initially. And she's so, some people don't like the word delightful. I can't think of another word. I mean, she's just sweet and honest and incredibly intelligent and obviously driven and knows what she wants and had the support of her manager in helping her in
Yeah,
her
that
career.
yes, I can't say enough about her. Number one, she is extremely bright, but she's very EQ. Her EQ is almost, if not the same, on the same level as her IQ is. I mean, her ability to be able to communicate information at whatever level to whatever audience, whether it's the top thought leader in a therapeutic area or even within a patient advocacy group, right? So she knows how to communicate, how to teach. That was such a fun episode, right? That was around the focus of, there are things. What do we do after being an MSL? Is it an MSL? Is it a people leader, or is it really exploring what the individuals in your teams, what their gifts are, helping them identify those things, giving them lanes to run in to pursue those types of dreams. And she is killing it in clinical development, right where she wanted to
Absolutely
be.
thriving.
And
Yes.
she is a great one. So definitely um, love Audrey and the things that she brings. And that's a great episode. We then talked about about being not just happy, but wild happy with Ryan
Yes.
Case. Tell us about that one.
Okay. So, this we kind of walked through the story of from Ryan's book, Wild Happy, which if you haven't read it yet, please read it. It is so I got chills. I think I got chills when we recorded the episode with him too. It is such a good book. It's well written and it's a great story. So Ryan Case was telling the story of work he was doing in his during his PhD, where he was in the remotest village of Papua New Guinea, and the life lessons that he learned there. And this has actually evolved into a workshop. And so he's leading workshops, and it. I posted about this on our page a few months ago.
Yeah.
So Ryan's website is forgethappy.com. And his workshops are called Modern Odyssey. So be sure you guys check that out. And actually now, since he's been doing these workshops for a while, it might be really interesting to have a recap with him in 25 to see how those workshops are going for him.
I loved it, Ryan. The idea of not settling, and it's important. Like, why would you settle? Why would you settle for the role that you're in if you're not happy, if you're not being able to make the impact, if it's not meeting the expectations that you thought it was? Do you move on, or what do you
Mm-hmm.
prioritize, and how are you prioritizing those types of things? And Sometimes we don't like to take a look in the mirror, but it can make such a tremendous impact, and you can tell it really shaped and changed the trajectory that Ryan was on. And now he certainly is making that impact and enjoying. It's not work for him. It's actually a pleasure. So
Right.
that's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
Um, you drilled me again, such on the next podcast around insights again as well too, right? So that's another one that we reiterated the importance of, really that qualitative. How do you bleed those in as well too? So be sure to check that one out. A couple of the takeaways with that. I don't think a lot of these things are necessarily novel in concept, but the idea of that we're not alone, asking for help and advice from the community around us. When we talk about leadership and learning from others, I think that was really kind of one of the major focuses about this, and to continue to be curious with that. For some reason, as we continue to advance, we forget that curiosity that really drove us to get where we were or where we are today. So continuing to engage your leadership community to figure out ways to really be able to communicate the story that you want to tell within your organization. So whether it's even the process improvement of gathering, reporting, and communicating insights, I think that's the biggest thing. We know our teams are bringing value, but how are we communicating that value, and what tools can we utilize to really articulate that? So another conversation around insights.
Mm-hmm. And I think I say we, because I'm not a medical affairs professional or anything, but, just from what I read
one.
and watch, I know at least one.
Yeah.
But I really feel like y'all are just scratching the surface of what the value is that can go back and forth between all the internal departments. I mean, I honestly can't wait to see what next year is going to be like.
Yeah, AI is going to really help us be able to communicate that as well too. Augmented intelligence, not artificial, but augmented, again, to be able to help us tell that story. The next episode, Breaking Through Silos with Chimoma. She is one of my favorite people of all time. Having the pleasure of getting to work with him for several years. He's now in the commercial side of the organization. He's one of those that can do multiple things and is very talented in marketing, sales, medical. But really, how do we really become that true partner across the organization? And he talked about ensuring that there are defined and aligned goals across all the cross-functional teams, along with medical affairs, to seek to understand what the needs are, instead of thinking about what do I want to communicate, even just asking, what is your expectation? But that was just, it's a very basic point, but I think it's something that we just don't do enough of. And then really, part of the leadership is being an advocate for your team internally. And so every role in every department should understand the positions that they play. And then that goes along with medical affairs and the role that they serve. So really good conversation with Chi as well too.
Yes, I love Chi. He is one of the most insightful people. And I always hesitate to use the word insightful, because I feel like insight, the root word, is like everywhere. So I have to come up with another word to call him than insightful. But
he connects the dots really well. Yeah, he connects the dots really well. He's a nonlinear thinker.
So he's a dot connector.
Yes, a dot connector. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We still may have to work on the best way to describe him.
We'll create a new word.
Yeah. So, love Chi. And thankfully he was able to hop on with us and talk a little bit about that. Love learning from him. We talked about really that development, right? Mentioned it with Audrey. We talked about it with Carol about hiring the right people. And then what do you do with the right people once you get them, right? So we had Kunal Romani, talking about IDP. Are you down with IDP?
We talked about this during the initial episode.
I know. You're supposed to
So
say, yeah, you know me. I mean, it's
yeah,
listen,
okay.
when
Let's
you're
just again.
when you're a dad, you have the same jokes, and you just have to learn to laugh, even if it's a fake laugh. So, are you down with
You
IDP?
know me.
There you go. All
Okay.
right, IDP. I can't explain it. Um, that's about all the
Okay.
words. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Never mind. Well, this is not a wrapping episode. What did he
Okay.
share?
So he was talking about how, that it's a living document and it's absolutely necessary to have one between, just so you can help chart a path for your employee, but also so you're very aware of what their goals are so that you can participate in helping them get where they need to be. And understanding that because we are talking about a living document, that it could change periodically and maybe their goals will evolve or veer off. And, it sets you up to be able to track that progress.
Yeah.
And again, it was sort of a sneak peek into what he was going to talk about at the MSL Society, and in a much bigger sense. And I did attend that session. It was really, really good. So yeah, love Canal. He's got lots of great ideas too. We had amazing guests on. We
Yeah.
had the best and the brightest on. I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yes, we did. And yes, we will. Yes, we
Mhm.
can. And yes, we will.
The
Um,
Bob the Builder.
I think so.
Yep.
We can do it. Yes, we can.
Yep.
The next episode that we talked about, was interviewing. And this time we got to flip the script. I got to interview you, Mary, and
Yep.
all of your years and years and years and years
Not
and
necessary.
years
Not necessary.
of experience with engaging those within medical affairs. Why don't you remind us of your takeaways of that?
Well, I've seen a lot of people wanting to interview for positions, or, they have a bad day and they pick up the phone and call a recruiter, and it's just because they're having a bad day. I think it's really important because everybody's time is valuable for someone to really look internally as to why am I looking?
Yeah.
What do I want to do? Taking the process very seriously. Um, and also having a really good idea of knowing what you want to do, but being a little bit flexible. But um, at the end of it all, being honest with yourself. Is this something I want to do? Or is this just me escaping where I am right now? And, going back to the IDPs, when Kanal was talking about um, preparing your plan for your future growth, um, is the job you're applying for aligned with what you really want to do? So that was a fun discussion because it's something I feel very passionately about.
I couldn't agree more. It reminds me of me writing out the career mission statement a couple years ago, letting that be my anchor for the interview process as well. I think it's great. It's great information, especially for those that are, well, really whatever the spectrum, whether you're trying to get in the industry, whether you're trying to transition to a new company, et cetera. This is a must listen to podcast. So Mary, thanks so much for sharing that with us. What did we talk about the next one? I think it was with Joe. Is that right?
Yeah. So Joe Medicis, who has a ton of experience working in and building out medical affairs functions in small startups, a lot of pre-IPOs. I mean, when you talk about somebody who's rolled up their sleeves, I mean, I don't know that he ever rolled them back down. But he gave us a lot of really cool information. In fact, that's another one where we got neck deep in so many conversations that we need to continue a conversation with him. But he's in the middle of a launch from a startup with a very novel MOA and not just a first in class, but a first in disease product. So he just got too busy for us to come back and continue the conversation. So he promised to continue.
Yes.
in
We'll
25.
we'll
So we'll get him
it'll
back.
it'll be good. It'll be good to get perspective for him after this launch too, right? And
Oh,
see
yeah.
see what he learned from that. So he talked about making sure to always follow the data and being flexible and thinking outside of your current role. And everything
This
he, I
is the
think,
most important one, I
yes,
think.
everything you do involves a patient, which I thought was a great reminder too, right? What's your why or what's our why?
Hmm.
Being healthcare professionals and being in this role, so within medical affairs. So yeah, we got to have Joe back in 25. Um, we talked about the social styles handbook,
Yeah.
the importance of knowing what the type of everybody has a social style where
Uh,
and how they communicate. Talked about the importance of that and how you would apply that with your team, the individuals in your team, whether they're analytical, whether they're amiable, expressive, or driving, or a blend of all those. But where's their home base, if you will, to be able to connect with them and make sure that they're getting the needs that they have, like what's their love language, what's their work love language, if you will,
hmm.
and how do they communicate that. So a great book. It's about the size of the old Cliff Note books. I used to not read the full chapters. I would read the Cliff Notes. And so if you're familiar with that, it's about the size of that. It's got pictures and everything. It's a really easy read. I can't recommend it enough. It's a really good book.
I have to tell you, I hadn't read that book prior to us getting ready to have that conversation. And, it's, and if for the listeners, if you did not listen to that episode or watch that episode, it's episode 21. Please go back and watch or listen to it. It was so like, aha to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it all made so much sense. And I was like, why didn't I find this book sooner? So I definitely recommend, checking out that episode 21 and getting the book.
Shout out to Michael Bradley, by the way. He's the one that actually put me on that book.
Oh,
To work
really?
along. Yes, yes. Very, very in tune with what drives people, and he shared that with me, and it made an immediate impact. So never stop learning, right? We always got to keep
Yes.
learning.
Thank you,
Um,
Michael Bradley.
yes, thank you, Michael Bradley. We then talked about, it was cool because we talked about in our well, I guess his second episode, that making the transition from individual contributor to leader. And we
Hmm.
got to have one that had just come out of it, I think 3 months into leadership. And that was Zach Henney, right?
Hmm.
Around
Yeah.
how do you make that? What do you do? Prioritization, the importance of that. So there's so many different things to tackle. And the mindset shift that we talked about earlier as well too, the importance of who your customer is, and how do you prioritize them to make sure that your team's getting the needs and that you're able to highlight your team appropriately within with your cross-functional stakeholders. So Zach is killing it in his current role. He's continuing to fill out his teams. He's done that recently, and he's just one of those outside the box thinkers as well too, with his experience in medical information, etc. So it was fun having Zach on.
Like having that conversation with him, and um, like when you're a kid and you see Tony Hawk riding a skateboard, up and down the half pipe, and you're like, that's easy. I could do that.
Oh.
Um, I felt like watching Zach and seeing him evolve into this role, he makes it look so easy. And
Yeah.
I think that speaks to, how some people are just organic. They're built for that.
Yep.
And it, he didn't try to overthink anything. He, I don't know. He has it all together, and he's not trying to be more of one thing or less of something else. He is just authentic.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that I think makes you such a great leader.
Oh, didn't realize you're gonna turn that in to a compliment to me, but I'll take it. Yeah,
Didn't mean
Zach.
to, it just came out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, Zach is fantastic, and he definitely has the natural aptitude, if you will, to be able to be a great leader, and he's going to be an amazing leader. I can't wait to watch him thrive over the years to come. Um, for the next episode, we revisited the idea about insights. This time we got another perspective from Carl DeLuca, and just he talked about the things that he's doing at Regeneron and helping build out and create things that will, from technology standpoint. So we talked about the role of technology and insight gathering, how we leverage insights as a competitive advantage. How do we overcome some of these barriers? I think he is navigating those right now to really get this thing up and running and doing a fantastic job. And how he's doing that is the importance of the stakeholder collaboration. So it was fun to listen to him as he is in the middle of this, like learning a new role, learning all the different key stakeholders and how to integrate with them that were outside of an MSL type of role in the previous experience. So it was great having Carl on as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think he said it's sort of behaving like a pilot program for Regeneron in ways. It's just for oncology, but if he gets in there and kills it, he's gonna, I don't know if it'll expand his role or have them want to hire more people just like him. Good luck, because Carl's one of a kind.
Yeah, he's really good. He's
really
good.
And then to meet him like a week later or something. Yeah. What a surprise.
Yes, it was great meeting him in person. I love being able to meet or see and actually know these people. And it goes back to the whole idea of networking. You can never network enough because you can learn a lot. There's a lot of experience out there, a lot of great ideas, and people that are smarter than me for sure. So I love being able to learn from them. Which, speaking of learning, we talked to Kathy, I think, in the next episode, Kathy Endorfer. Tell us about that episode.
And before I forget, because we were just talking about the 4 social styles, some of the examples she gave in the episode that she was on, she was talking about those 4 social styles. I'm like, I guess I was the last to the party on that one. But we had Kathy on to discuss her new book, The Art of Excellence in Building a Rock Star Career as a Medical Science Liaison. And while we didn't give away too many spoilers on her book, and you should go get it, it is incredible. She gave us some of her thought processes behind why she put the book together, but how you can be a rock star MSL. And I think that you probably made the best note on what the overarching theme was of the things that she was talking about.
Being smart, knowing that science is not enough, I think is one of the conversations I think that she really drove home at the point, and then understanding people and being able to navigate those challenging conversations. Right, I think that those are skills that aren't always at the top of mind when we're thinking about from a scientist perspective, trying to step into a science role. It's just not enough. And I was just amazed at the impact that she's making, even those outside of industry and trying to break in, and just her mentor. She has not stopped that, and she's continuing to accelerate. I think she said she was starting to write another book or trying to get to, I don't know how she does it all in the midst of being amazing at her job as well too. So it was great having Kathy on, and be sure to check out her book if you've not had a chance to listen to it, or listen. I don't know if it's on audiobook. If you've not had a chance to read it.
It's not on audiobook, but I would love to read it. I would love to record the audiobook for her. You're hearing it here first.
Oh, I'll love
do it for free. I love this book so much. Next one was with one of my personal faves, Blanca Richardson, who a talent acquisition person that I have worked with over and over and over again, and she has got it down to a science, no pun intended, this whole hiring process. And I'm sure her current employer would not want me to blow her up too much because they don't want to lose her. But there's nobody better. And I think she's got a lot of systems that work for her. But, the thing that she was talking about, creating a strategic approach for each hire is key. Being able to partner with your hiring manager. And so hiring manager should partner with their talent acquisition person throughout the process is absolutely essential. And then if you have a talent acquisition partner who knows the market, the hiring market, and the people in those key experiences, who really takes a consultative approach rather than looking at it as a transaction. Okay, I can wipe that one off my whiteboard. That's who you need, is the people who really take ownership of doing a great job, and that's her. So I think those are great lessons for people in talent acquisition.
Agreed. And if you, Blanca, I hope that you get an amazing end of year review and a big raise too for all the work that you're doing. Yeah. So we don't want to take you away from your current employer. We want you to be able to maximize at your current employment. No, Blanca was great. So I was glad to get to meet her as well too. And then we just had our episode with Rachel Hawley, who shared her experience as a fellow and really how to be your own advocate, the importance of giving yourself time to learn, and then building relationships early. All those are key components of when you're making this transition into industry from wherever you've been, whether it's pharmacy school, whether it's retail, whether it's being in a lab, whatever your environment is, giving yourself that grace to be able to learn, maximize, and really even her impact that she is, it's seeing a need, filling a need, right? When you think about her social media presence around, hey, this would have been helpful for me to learn how to, or know the ropes about what it takes to become a fellow and what are you doing as a fellow. And for her to be able to share that on a broader stage and already make the impact that she has. And now, I mean, she has, as a result of doing those takeaways that she shared, I mean, she's already stepped into a new role as health outcomes medical science liaison with Alnylam, and she is going to be a rock star for certain in years to come within medical affairs.
Totally agree. Totally. I talk to a lot of people. She's so put together. I don't know if that's the most professional way to put it, but she's got it. I mean, I know we just aired it, but I know you don't like to listen to the podcasts. But I was out Christmas shopping yesterday and I was listening to it, and she is so articulate, and I would never, if I talked to her for the first time ever and knew nothing about her, I would have never thought she is like less than a year into her first field medical role. Incredible. Again, don't anybody go out and try to take her from Alnylam either.
No, please don't.
Don't do that.
Please don't. So
yes,
it was a great year, Mary. All those guests, all those topics, a lot of fun. Not too bad for our first year. I don't think.
Nope. I think it was great, and we've got lots of good stuff in store for you guys next year.
Do you want to tease them with a few different things or ideas we're throwing around?
We are going to start doing, I hate to call them roundtables, but they're going to be like little think tank sessions to do some brainstorming on some of the common daily issues that MSL leaders and other medical affairs professionals are dealing with. And so we're going to have a great cast of characters for you for some of those things. And those will be regular, quarterly. We have some topics around patient advocacy and the role of competitive intelligence in the pre-launch stage.
Yeah, That's
we
enough.
have
That's
like
enough.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
we
yeah.
have like a
Yeah.
whole year planned out for you guys. And I think not I think I know Chad and I've already discussed um the maybe an easier way to garner some of your feedback.
Yeah.
And we'll be sending some surveys out periodically, not through LinkedIn, but so many of you have been gracious enough to reach out and share your contact information for things like this. And so we'll be sending surveys out because remember, we're doing this for you guys.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring value in ways that have not been done. There are podcasts for MSLs, and there are podcasts for executive leadership. We were just talking, Simon Sinek does a great podcast, but right there in the middle,
Yeah.
they're the people getting left out, and they're the ones that aren't getting the resources, and that's why Chad and I came together to do this. So I'm going to start getting sappy. I'm proud of our little 1-year-old MSLE Chronicles baby. We'll nurture them.
Yeah. Yes. And I think to our listeners, the commitment is just to get better communicators. We do like the idea of it just being authentic and almost banter. I enjoy the banter the most out of this, but just like a roadside conversation, if you will. Mary, I can't thank you enough for all the behind the scenes work that you have done to a YouTube channel, to trying to get me on TikTok, all these types of things that you
Getting
have
you on
done.
TikTok was not hard.
Well, I'm gonna try to have a little bit more of a continued presence on that in 25. So we'll see. And just trying to figure out ways that we can continue to serve our listeners. So thank you, Mary, for all that you do.
I'd
To
like
make
to
this what it
extend a
is.
thank you. Oh, thank you. I would like to extend a thank you to my firstborn, Paige, who I've mentioned this once before, but Paige wrote our theme music. So we didn't just pull something off of the free music for whoever wants it site. Paige wrote this song for us. She wouldn't even let me play the tambourine. She says I don't have any rhythm.
Well, no comment about that, but you have some amazing kids, no doubts, and so thankful for them as well. And again, thank you, listeners, for choosing to join us on your journey of learning to lead. Thank you for sharing the feedback that you have. Thank you for giving us leadership tips on how to do things better. Most importantly, we want to thank our listeners again for choosing to join us on our leadership journey, recognizing that leaders don't develop in isolation. Leaders learn from leaders. So with that, wishing you a great rest of 24 and a happy new year. Look forward to advancing our conversations in 25. Until next time.